the agenda. Are there any amendments to tonight's agenda? Sue?
Can I add, or can I motion to add for us to vote on whether we want to endorse the birth referendum as an action item?
Do you have a second?
I second.
Zuleika motions, Noe seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, with a unanimous 11-0 vote, we will be adding, the motion passes and we'll be adding the birth referendum.
So Emily, just want to point out, it's going to be really hard. According to your bylaws, you can't actually vote on referenda until you've given proper notice, which would have had to be last Friday. So you can vote on this next Friday, but you've not given the public enough notice to be able to vote on it for this meeting.
Do folks have anything? Zuleika?
Even if it's an endorsement, Josh?
Dr. Geller, your thoughts?
The language you put into your bylaws a couple months ago says that you can add non-action items up until 11:59 Monday night, but all action items have to be on the agenda when public notice is given by 7 p.m. on Friday. So if you add anything that you take an action vote on that wasn't there when the agenda was posted 7 o'clock Friday, you're doing it in violation of your bylaws.
Thanks, Dr. Geller. We'll table this then for next week. Any other amendments to the agenda? Can you please say it out loud, folks? Because I'm seeing 2 verbal officer reports, Noe and Elijah.
Can I do a verbal officer report?
Okay, so transfer rep, verbal. General Rep 3 spoken and Noe also spoken.
We strike capital contingency, please.
Capital contingency, striking.
Can I strike TGMF and ASRF, please?
ASRF, TGMF, striking.
Can we strike the transpo fund, please?
Striking the transfer fund.
Can we strike for an advocacy grant?
Striking back. And then I'm going to motion to make the, wait, no, it's already an action item. Never mind. Okay, cool. If there are no amendments to the agenda, can I please get a motion?
Oh, sorry. Could I also have a written officer report or a spoken officer report?
Great. Sachi spoken.
And other than that, I motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Sachi motions, Zuleika seconds. All in favor? Okay, with the unanimous 12-0 vote, the motion passes and the agenda is approved for tonight. Cool. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. I hope everyone's had a chance to read over the minutes from last week. If so, can I get a motion, please?
I motion to approve the minutes for April 20th, 2021.
I second.
Justin motions, Jonathan seconds, all in favor. All against? All abstaining? Okay, with the 11 to 0 vote, the motion passes and the minutes are approved. Cool, we are going to now move on to public comment. So for the public, each public commenter gets 2 minutes to speak once. The community guidelines for public comment are to challenge ideas and not individuals. Please remember to use gender inclusive and respectful language. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom from accountability. And again, each speaker will be given 2 minutes and the chance to speak once. Please use the raise hand function, and I'll go ahead and promote you to a panelist. Once you're in the panelist section, please use the raise hand function again so that I can call on you in order. Does anyone want to give public comments? Cool. All right. Well, so first person I saw is Rodrigo Vasquez. Please go ahead and begin when you're ready. Rodrigo?
Okay. Yeah, how you doing? Sorry, technical difficulty. Sorry. Hi, can people hear me good? Sorry. Okay. So first, thank you for the opportunity to comment. My name is Rodrigo Vasquez. I'm a formerly incarcerated student here at UCLA. And one of the things I want to ask for and advocate for is to have physical office space on campus. We Even though our population has a lot of intersection in terms of like some of us being Latino, for like me, for example, or Black or different ethnicities, or a lot of us are transfers, or myself, I was a transfer student. Now I'm a graduate student. We still, it's very crucial for us to have our own space where we could kind of get together and talk about our experience. Specifically, incarceration is a very traumatic experience, and making it this far, I feel like we were able to overcome a lot of obstacles to get to a place like UCLA. And it's beautiful when we find other people that gone through this similar struggles and overcome a lot of like society's obstacles. Um, but it's harder for us to connect and build without physical space. And especially right now, California, it's been a lot of reform, a lot of reentry. A lot of community colleges are starting formerly incarcerated programs. So we feel like UCLA is in a good position to bring in a lot of transfer students, a lot of potential even graduate students that are formerly incarcerated, and having a physical space could be very powerful for us as students, feeling like we have a space, that we have a belonging, we have a space where we could talk one-on-one and share trauma, feel safe. We never had any institutional, historically, we've never been institutionally supported to attend higher education. So for us, this journey is very new. It's part of creating a new culture. And we trying to advocate to have physical space for us to continue to bond and grow. And I just want to highlight to this committee that having a space for us is very crucial, especially when people are coming out, to able to bring them to campus and say, look, this is a space where one day you might be a UCLA student, as a form of motivating and empowering them. And when I was in Berkeley, we had space in UC Berkeley, and I know how powerful it was having that space to connect after class and build and organize and have meetings and events. And I just want to see some of that stuff start happening here at UCLA, especially when there's potential space for us that's not being utilized for us to start using. So I just want to echo that to this committee. There's no resources for formerly incarcerated students right now. We don't have no scholarships for formerly incarcerated students. So we're hoping that space could kind of start echoing some of our challenges, being part of the institution, but not really part of it. When we hear equity and inclusion, a lot of times our equity, our voice, our inclusion is not part of that. So we want to begin to change that culture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rodrigo. Next up is Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So, hi, my name is Michelle. I'm here on behalf of Underground Scholars as well. I've been in Underground Scholars since I was at the end of my first year. So I'm a senior now. I've been here for about 3 years, and I've been able to see like this organization grow, as well as many of the struggles that we've been through. So when I first joined Underground Scholars, we were constantly being pushed around from room to room. So we would walk around campus, look for empty, unlocked classrooms to hold our meetings, and quickly text the group chat, like, we're meeting in public affairs or we're meeting in Haynes. And we never really had a stable place until the transfer center opened their doors to us. And we were able to start having our meetings there, but we had to leave after a certain time due to study hours. And then now we're moved over to the BRC, which we share that space with many other different organizations. And we've never really had a space to call our own. We've never really had a space on campus where we can say, this is where formerly incarcerated and system impacted students meet. So it's very important, as Froggy said, that we get this space, because we have currently students asking us about UCLA and the resources we offer to formerly incarcerated and system impacted students. And we're losing a lot of students over to colleges like Berkeley or other more established USI programs that have the resources and have that space where students can feel comfortable and in community. And we really need this space. Right now we're requesting a center. However, we would like a temporary space in Kirchhoff, in the office spaces. We are aware that some of the guidelines in order to obtain a space sometimes favor organizations that have been here longer or are more established, but we still want to highlight that formerly incarcerated and system impacted students currently don't have, like Froggy said, any resources on campus, and we're very underrepresented, and we need the resources. So we're advocating that some of these rules get bypassed and that we're offered a space, even if it's just somewhere where we can meet or have conversations or eat lunch or go talk to people and see people that look like us, being that many people are with our backgrounds are policed or racialized on campus. So it's very important that we get this space, and we would like all of you to think about ways that you can support us and not just come out with statements like the university does and act in performative solidarity, but actually give us resources and support us in the ways that we are asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Next up is Jane.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to give public comment about the resolution regarding Lily Shaw. Just like a special note, like I joined back under Lily's office, and I was just always really admired all the work she did for disability advocacy in general, and just in fact, I think something that isn't really related to advocacy, but something that she did that I really admire is by making FAC like a super like a fun and a welcoming space, and somewhere where all sorts of people just felt welcome, and like also like a social place where, yeah, like really just made FAC really fun. And I think that was really inspiring to a lot of us within FAC. And of course, her work has obviously made a huge impact on the UCLA community. So I just wanted to say that real quick.
Thank you, Jane. Joy?
Hi, my name is Joyce Lemieux, and I am a third-year student at UCLA, and I also wanted to voice my support for the resolution to commemorate Lily Shaw. I unfortunately wasn't able to join FAC under her leadership. However, I did meet her through the campaign of current Facilities Commissioner Sachi Cooper. And it was an incredible opportunity. She literally lit up any Zoom call that she was in and called every single person that she knew and recognized out by name during every meeting. And to be able to create that kind of community just speaks to only a small fraction of her impact and power in UCLA. And further, when she passed, I obviously had to talk to my work about like the struggles that I was going through, and even the full adults, my work study supervisor and everyone else that I worked with heard of Lily and were touched by her, and that's just a testament to how incredibly impactful she was to every part of the UCLA community, not just the students, but administration and the community as a whole.
Thank you so much, Joy. Princess?
Hi, my name is Princess, and I am here on behalf of the Facilities Commission, and I'm also talking about supporting the resolution commemorating Lily Shaw. I met Lily under Sachi's campaign, and I did not have the privilege to know her as long as anyone else under FAC, but as I was under Sachi's campaign, I didn't know a lot about FAC or about USAC in general, but Lily was very kind and very understanding, and she always took time out to explain things that I didn't know to me. And she was very welcoming to anyone who wanted to take part in FAC, whether or not we had any background in Access on Board or Blank Space or anything of that nature. Lily was very supportive, and I think that she laid the foreground as to what FAC is today. And she plays a huge role as to why I am part of the Facilities Commission and why Blank Space is very important to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Princess. Jackie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Kolker. I'm a second-year transfer student, and I'm also a part of the Facilities Commission here in support and affirmation of everything that was just said for the resolution commemorating Lily Shaw. I don't know, everyone's just said it so perfectly, so I feel like I don't really have anything else to say. So thank you all.
Thank you, Jackie. Hannah?
Hello, my name is Hannah Regan. I'm a third-year student and also the USAC chair. I wanted to say first, just to those who gave public comments on behalf of underground scholars, I would love to reach out with you as USAC chair and to work with you to help secure space for your organization, because I completely agree with everything you said tonight during public comment. I'd like to thank you for coming and advocating for your group. And I'd also like to speak on the resolution regarding Lily Shaw. I joined the Facilities Commission mostly because of Lily, and I'm not only inspired by her ability to create and develop a thriving community, but also to inspire everyone around her to be better, to fight for what they believe in, and to believe in their capabilities and to trust in themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. And then next, I'm going to be sharing screen with a public comment that was submitted to me in video form.
Hi, everyone. My name is Quinn O'Connor, and y'all have probably seen me pop into meetings every now and then throughout the past year bitching about accessibility and whatnot. Today, however, I am here to speak about my friend and mentor, Lily Shaw. As many of you are already aware, because of her immense, lasting impact on this campus, she was a fierce advocate for disabled students like me, as well as staff, faculty, and the broader disabled community. To read about all of her achievements, I encourage you to reference the resolution being presented later tonight. However, I wanted to take this opportunity to talk more personally as to what her impact is for me. She was one of the first unapologetically disabled people I met at UCLA, and let alone in my life. Even before I was ever remotely involved in USAC, I saw that she was running for office while I was a freshman and was empowered that someone disabled would have a role in campus life as she did. Her mere presence in my life from that moment made me feel proud of my identity as a disabled person in a world that works to make disabled people feel ashamed of their own identities. I think everyone who knew her can agree that she had a way of empowering and leading her peers, even if they didn't believe in their power themselves. And that's exactly what she did with me. And without her, I would not be where I am today and probably would have stayed in my theater, film, and television bubble for the duration of my years at UCLA, never having been able to meet some of my closest friends to build what is now the Disabled Student Union, a place that is fostering the community Lily worked and dreamed of. Some of the biggest things Lily wanted for UCLA was community inclusion and acceptance of our community. However, as I have learned this past year in my advocacy for such, this cannot be done alone and it cannot be done with a select few. Don't get me wrong, Lily did so much on her own when she was a student and created the foundation we are all on today. But as you are probably all aware, systemic change takes a community, complete with allies dedicated to supporting the fight to make UCLA an accessible space for all. I am proud of the work the Disabled Student Union has done this year, but it is by no means finished. And that's where I am asking for your help. By signing this resolution, I don't want you all to simply sign it and continue with your life. In your remaining work in USAC as well as beyond, integrating access, inclusion, and allyship of the disabled community is vital to keeping her impact alive, even after the founding members of DSU graduate. In the transition to the new council, it is vital that we have awareness of our community in every office. Systemic lasting change cannot happen if only a few disabled students make noise at a couple of meetings. It takes a full community striving for that change. If Lily was here with us today, I have no doubt in my mind that she would have worked to make federal national change for the disabled community, such as possibly amending the vagueness in the Americans with Disabilities Act, rebuilding the accommodations processes at the education level, et cetera, and working to include the intersectionality of disability in so much of her work. And I hate that I won't be able to see her make that happen because I full-heartedly believe that I would grow up and see her do that. So now it lies with us. I'm not asking for you all to get into disability law as your career. I will not be doing so either. I'm gonna be a theater bitch. But I am asking you all to actively work and contribute to a culture where people like Lily can be empowered and supported to make the change needed for the disabled community at UCLA and this country. For those of you who were able to work and know Lily on a personal level, I know it is impossible to ever forget her. I hope that because of this, you all support this resolution and take her impact to the level that she strived for. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead and pass it up to me.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. Moving on to Laura.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura. I'm the undergraduate representative for the research continuity group on the COVID task force. There haven't been any major updates. Undergraduate researchers are now allowed to return to in-person labs as long as they are approved on their lab's ROP. And even though the UCs have now mandated vaccines for next fall, that it's not applicable for the rest of this academic year. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Radha. Please tell me if I pronounced your name wrong. Wait, can you all? I spoke, right? Okay.
We can hear you, Naomi.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, my computer's so slow with Zoom. Yes, you said my name right. Thank you for saying my name right. Hi, everyone. My name is Radha. I am CalPERG Students' newly elected chapter chair for next year. As you all know, except the members of the public, CalPERG Students is a student-run group in California that started more than 45 years ago. We work to take action within the public interest and give students a voice in issues that they care about. As a directed group rehabilitation to win big campaigns such as getting the UCs to phase out of single-use plastics. And just recently, our campaign to ban fracking. Our oil drilling negatively affects our environment and local communities that can cause air pollution and public health issues. But Governor Newsom recently announced a ban on oil drilling in California. This will halt the issuance of new fracking permits by 2024 and an oil drilling in the state by 2045, which will be an exciting new start to help us fight climate change and transition away from the harmful fossil fuels. Last week, our chapter held an amazing statewide climate action summit on Earth Day to push for 100% clean energy by 2030 in our state. Over 1,500 students attended our Earth Week events and took over 3,600 actions all across the country to support our campaigns. The summit was very successful. Out of our goal of having 300 attendees, we ended up having 750 people there, pushing to end climate change. And lastly, this week we are hosting the past year, younger generation at lower rates because of years, but we students care the future, which is why we were able to mobilize our entire state for our future. We found out that we got 85% of California students re-register to vote last year. And so this week, we will be helping students register to vote for 3 upcoming elections. That includes our USAC Student Government, North Westwood Neighborhood Council, and State Assembly District 54. Thank you for your time.
Thank you and welcome. Okay. I believe that concludes public comment, but if anyone else would like to give public comment, now is the time. If not, going once, twice. Okay, we are concluding public comment at 10:30 p.m. Thanks everyone for sticking around. For those of y'all that are here for Lily's resolution, it probably will not be until, well, it's at the end of the agenda, so I would estimate like maybe an hour and a half more likely, maybe less, an hour and a half likely. So yeah, just probably come back around that time, or you can stick around, that's fine too. Okay, awesome. Moving on to our funding bodies this week, starting with contingency programming. David, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. So this week we had a total amount requested of $5,216 and a total amount recommended of $4,816 to 8 non-USAC entities.
Can I get a motion? Unless folks are still reading through the allocations.
I move to approve the allocation of $4,816 to 8 non-USAC entities.
I second.
Justin motions, Jonathan seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, all against? And all abstaining? Okay. By a motion of 10 to 0 to 0, vote of 10 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and the contingency allocations are approved for this week. Thanks, David. Moving on to SFS allocations, Jonathan.
Hello all, lovely to see everyone. This week for SFS, we had a total requested amount of $2,268.90 and a total recommended allocation of $1,626 even to 2 CSC and 2 non-CSC orgs.
Thank you. Does anybody have any opposition to the allocations? Awesome. Seeing as there's no opposition, then we are approving the SFS allocations for this week. Thanks again, Jonathan. Moving on to SWC programming fund allocations, Christina.
Hello. Okay, this week $799.81 were allocated towards an Asian Mental Health Awareness Week, a Central Coatlicue, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, and then a wellness challenge.
Awesome. Any opposition to SWC's programming fund allocations? Okay, seeing as there's no opposition, those allocations are approved for this week too. Thanks, Christina. Moving on to ARC, but I don't think Promise is here. No, she's not. Okay. TGIF.
Hello, I realized that we didn't fund anything this week because some things were conditional on changes, so sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. Okay, that concludes the funding portion. Now we can move on to special presentations. We have our USAC space allocation guidelines and application. I'll turn it over to Sachi.
Yes, and I believe Hannah is already promoted. Yes, okay, so I will turn it over to Hannah.
Thank you. Okay, let me quickly screen share. Hope that this works. Okay, so thank you to everyone for having me and giving me the time today. I am here just to ask council for any suggested changes or additions to the office allocation application for next year. I will also be coming back in the fall for next council to ask them for any suggestions. I just want to make sure that I'm including as many perspectives as possible in this process, simply because my committee is just 4 people. Okay, so the current requirements and questions on the application. As far as eligibility requirements go, an organization has to have sole registration for at least 5 years, have to apply for funding in the last 5 of 10 years, and used campus facilities at least once a year for the last 5 years. And the current application question topics include a statement of purpose, structure of organization, engagement with campus community, stability and history on campus, space utilization, and a description of need. So those are just kind of the general topics covered and the general eligibility requirements. My committee has been discussing over the last few weeks some possible changes to requirements and some changes and additions to application questions. So for eligibility, we were considering reducing full registration time from 5 years to 2 years. And so that would be making adjustments to funding, applying for funding, campus facility use. And we're considering reducing it just because there are so many newer organizations that may require space or would benefit a lot from space. And then as well, we're going to introduce a new requirement that any current office holders attend one USAC office hour, just so that there's a lot more contact between the office space allocation committee and student groups, so that they know that we're there for them as a resource, and we're not just something that comes around every 2 years to reallocate space. And as far as changes and additions to application questions, we're going to introduce a question on social medias or organization social media, which will just kind of give us a bigger look at what the organization is up to, what their following and engagement is like, and what their reach is on campus. As well, because we're lowering the eligibility requirement for those newer organizations, we will ask them questions about a 5-year plan, as opposed to, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So we can get a sense of how organized and how structured these organizations are. And finally, as far as application questions go, we're going to be asking for more specifics on structure of organization. If an organization is exclusively doing, all staff meetings, and those meetings are 20+ people, that can't be accommodated by a Kirkhoff office. Whereas if they're having a lot of smaller department meetings, they may benefit from an office, simply because you can't book a classroom, I believe, for more than 4 times in a week. Some other changes we're going to be doing, there aren't a lot of specifics on supporting documentation for things like mail and whatnot as proof for your org, so we'll just be including some more specifics for that. We're considering switching from a paper format to an online format, such as a Cognito form. We are looking into expanding the appeal time once decisions have been made from 7 days to between 10 and 14 days, just to give organizations a little bit more time to meet as an executive board and discuss, what the merits would be of appealing our decision. We're also going to be looking into reviewing the current point system. I'm not super clear on how that point system works just yet. However, I want to make sure that these are as fair as possible and also take into consideration access and historical access to space on campus, which I'm just not confident that that can be done properly through a point system. And finally, we are going to be placing a significant emphasis on cleanliness and accessibility standards, which we're going to be offering students support in applying to things like capital contingency, so they can get new storage furniture to help clean up their space. But it'll just be a lot easier for management to get in there and improve ventilation and make those other cleanliness improvements as well. Kirchhoff as a building isn't very accessible, but the offices are even less so. And we really want to make sure that all students are able to enjoy this space. So those are our proposed changes so far. And I'm just coming here to see if anyone has any questions or suggestions right off the bat. Otherwise, I'm going to put my email on the screen after this, and you can reach out to me and we can set up a meeting, or we can just have an email thread where we discuss that. You can just unmute because I can't see anyone right now.
Does anyone have any questions for Hannah? I know I have one right off the bat. Or not maybe necessarily a question, but more so a comment. I would love to get more information on the point system and how all that would work, just because I'm typically against point systems because they always tend to disadvantage people who need the most understanding of how nuance operates in their lives. So I definitely would want to see why I guess a point system would be necessary, and then also what it would look like implementation wise.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I will pass along as soon as I am able to find more information on that point system. I'll pass along anything I get to you and to the rest of council. Justin.
Yeah. Thank you for this presentation. I think I wanted to voice that I'm personally in support of the along with maybe rethinking that point system. Also, I'm in favor of the changes in I guess requirements that you're proposing. I think a lot of the offices I think the ones I was in, and I only knew, and got to be in a few Kirchhoff offices for orgs. But there is a lot of inertia as far as sometimes they're just orgs that have been there for a long time, what was I gonna say? I was gonna ask how many applications do you generally see? Because the one thing I'm thinking about, when you lower the barriers, there may be a few more orgs applying, and still you'll have that kind of ability to judge, and I think those are good changes still. I'm just wondering about capacity of OSAC, especially since you mentioned, it is a smaller committee and all of that.
Yeah, thank you for your comments and question. I can't say off the top of my head what the typical application number is. I'm assuming it's relatively high. And there are, only about 30 offices. So that's a great point. That'll be something we take into consideration. Hopefully, I'm hoping that the committee will be at least a little bit bigger next year. And of course, we want to make sure that, you know, even if we have a bunch, we still want to give everyone the proper amount of time to really consider their organization's needs. And that is one reason why we're implementing the office hour requirement, just so that we have a higher level of contact with these organizations. But I hope that answers your question. I would like to think it's in my capacity and my committee's capacity to look at every organization that wants space. But that's a good thing to take into consideration. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything? If not, you can email me. I'll throw my email up on the screen. I do have office hours. Please email me if you want that sign-up link. I would love to chat with you about anything regarding space. Oh, Zuleika, did you have something you wanted to? Sorry, I can't see raised hands unless you have your video on. So sorry.
You're good. No, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the suggestions on changing how long an org has existed, right? Because I know that one of the issues with transfer orgs is that since we're only here for 2 years, a lot of the times our orgs die, right? And then what happens is like a year or 2 years later, they come back again, but they come in a new names, but it's like the same like constitution and the same, you know, the same advocacy things that we've been doing. So I really appreciate that, but I would just like try to consider like some of the orgs that have done that, right? Like have been created, have been there for a while and then died down and then came back. So because I know that that's very prevalent in the transfer community, but I really appreciate the changes.
Thank you for saying that. I definitely want to make sure that transfer students are able to have office space after the allocation year next year. I think it's really important that, you know, there's at least somewhere for all students to go. So thank you for saying that. And I'll definitely, you know, continue to take all these into consideration. Sachi, you said you had your hand raised in the chat.
Yes. Well, Hannah, you know how much I appreciate you, but thank you for coming again today. But I did just want to make like a general comment that obviously like OSAC can't do it all. And OSAC is like student run and it's about student space. But the general, this is just a general comment, not to you, but just on space on campus, which is that like there is ultimately like an administrative responsibility to provide space. So I appreciate everything you're doing. And I definitely like think that your work is integral in terms of how we're getting orgs, especially underrepresented communities, space on campus. But did want to make the sentiment clear for any admin listening in that it is, you know, not fair to place the burden on students when admin has the money and the ability to add more. We need more supply. Demand is very high. That's my econ explanation for everyone.
Thank you, Sachi. I just want to echo that quickly before I sign off. You know, there's only so much space, and I would love to be able to give every org an office, their own office. That's simply not possible. I would love to give every community their own center where they can access anything they want. That's simply not possible. What is possible is, you know, I can make these applications as equitable as possible. And otherwise, my committee is working really hard to develop resources to help students who may not be able to get an office space learn how to reserve other spaces that are much more temporary on campus, and working with students in that way. So our goal in the end is, even if you apply and you don't get space, you'll still get something. We can help you reserve meeting rooms, all of those things. So thank you again. Please email me if you have any questions. And if you want to come to office hours, email me. Otherwise, thank you again for giving me the time and the space. Have a great rest of your week 5.
Awesome. Thanks again, Hannah, for coming in and presenting to us. And we're so excited to see what the committee continues to do this year and next year, and also in other years when we continue to advocate for more space, because like we mentioned, space is very limited, and it shouldn't be the burden of students, even though we often take it on. Okay, cool. I'm actually striking USAC seat at the table initiative because it's week 5 and we decided not to have anyone present this week, but we'll be tuning in for our last seat at the table, or I guess second to last, maybe last, next week. Okay, moving on to officer reports. Emily, do you want to go first? Actually have to pull up my notes.
I was also just pulling up my notes.
Aiden could go first. Right, Aiden?
Yes, I can. I always do these no notes, so that's why they're a bit rambling. But yeah, thank you so much. Over the past week, we've been preparing for, as I've been mentioning in our prior reports, the 3 different elections that will be happening in Westwood and our local community in May. The first is the Assembly District 54 special election, which will be occurring on May 18th. And the deadline to register to vote and to get your ballot is May 3rd. So we'll be doing a lot of publicity, and make sure to go to castudentvote.org to update your registration if you'd like to vote in that election here in Westwood. And you'll have the option to vote by mail, to drop your ballot off in a ballot drop box, or vote in one of the vote centers nearby, the closest one being in Brentwood. The other election is our local North Westwood Neighborhood Council election. Deadline to request your ballot is May 4th online through the city clerk's website. You can find that on Bruins Vote's Instagram and all our social medias. And then, of course, the USAC elections, which begin voting this week and continue until next week. Other items that we've been working on, just working on the transition, getting all our kinds of initiatives and relationships and contacts compiled into a accessible form for the next EVP administration. And then next week, we'll be working on another kind of federal week of action focused on doubling the Pell Grant, comprehensive immigration reform, and then Title IX issues. And then the final thing that is on our radar is this Thursday will be all the EVPs across UC meeting with President Drake for our quarterly meeting. And key issues we'll be bringing up are related to tuition and affordability, campus safety, and re-envisioning what campus safety looks like. And then the fall reopening plans and how that impacts international students and students with disabilities and other students that face higher barriers to entry or barriers to access from a very swift return to in-person instruction. So that's what we've been working on for the past week, and looking forward to updating more next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Aiden. I can go next. So also had a semi-busy week last week. Two of the big things that we're doing internally is working on cleaning up and finishing up our transition process too. We have a few bylaws that are coming in tonight, and then possibly, I don't think any are coming next week, but just tying up loose ends. I will be trying to get out the quarterly email just in time for getting out the vote. I'll probably be submitting it either tomorrow or Thursday, and hoping it can get out at least for Monday or Tuesday. I think that because it's Friday, I mean, we can talk about this later too on when you all think it should drop to try to get the most voter turnout. I don't think Friday would be a good time, and I also want to make sure it's not being bombarded with like other messages that students are getting, because administration has been sending a lot of those. So we can talk about that after too if anyone has any ideas. But other than that, also was in our public health compliance meeting and still talking about what will compliance look like as things continue to reopen. We've talked about how just because campuses, or just because the county is allowing things to reopen doesn't necessarily mean that the campus is ready to move forward in opening all parts of the campus that may be allowed to reopen. So still going through those strategies. And I think last week, Aiden and other system-wide leaders had our debrief on the symposium, which was long overdue, but we were finally able to find a time to debrief on how that all went and what our next steps are in terms of advocacy. I had, as within my council president's role, had our quarterly meeting with President Drake, and our topics also included campus safety and policing, return to campus, and continuing to advocate for hybrid options once we get back. And then, of course, COVID-19, the vaccine mandate, and just general updates. And then we also talked about the UC data breach, which has obviously been a very scary time for a lot of folks, and advocated for longer than just the 1 year period that they're currently giving us for credit monitoring. So those are some key topics. I also wanted to bring up something that you all had, thankfully, thanks to everyone who signed on to the letter, but the Gold Book proposal that is still circulating and still floating around. I still 100% believe that the way that this whole process has played out is deeply concerning, and I'm sure you all think so too. The fact that this proposal had been out since February and the campus had submitted their commentary, but then when they realized, or when it was revealed that they hadn't circulated it far enough, they had asked UCOP to reopen the commentary. So I think that, again, this is an issue that we should all keep our eyes on, especially within the next few days or the next few weeks as we transition, and making sure that we are passing down the knowledge of what's going on to our successors. I don't want to say predecessors again, to our successors. So yeah, I've only heard back from the academic senate, and we still haven't heard back from administration. So if we don't get anything by Friday, we should probably send a follow-up. But yeah, other than that, also just wanted to make one last big push for folks to come out to the honorary naming committee listening session. That's going to be the opportunity for folks to be able to give their input on what the naming policy should look like, and what should be included. And I thought that it would be really cool to invite orgs who aren't necessarily from USAC. So there should be other student leaders present too. So if you can make it, please just stop by for like 30 minutes. Okay, cool. I talked for too long. Emily, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Okay, what's up with our office? So on last Wednesday, we held an event in partnership with the Asian American Studies Department, the Vietnamese Student Union, Asian Pacific Coalition in my office, which was like an open mic night, part of our Healing from Within series. And it was really cool. We got like a super amazing turnout. I wasn't expecting it. I thought 10 people would come, and then 70 people came, and I was like, wow. Okay, after that, we are also working on several like last few projects with our interns from fall quarter and winter quarter. So if you've looked at my Instagram lately, all of those projects like making friends during a pandemic resource guide, pandemic postcard pals with our office, and HEART, which is a student organization, as well as a survey about the COVID-19 vaccine and fall housing, and the leadership lobby Slack workspace. Those are all our like intern projects that they're all finishing up before the end of the term. So yeah, and then on last Friday we held the last Know Your Rights worker, like Know Your Rights work. I'm so sorry, student worker Know Your Rights training. And it was in partnership with the UCLA Labor Center as well as Ideas. That was also awesome. We're going to try and post clips from that as IGTVs so that people who weren't able to make it can get access to the information. And then two last things is that we are finally wrapping up our Drive Down Rent Awards. I turned in the last of the requisitions last week. And then they're working with financial aid to transfer funds from our Spark campaign to students who we allocated Spark funding to. And the last thing is that we are hosting an abolition panel with the Campus Safety Alliance on Friday at 12 p.m. Highly recommend y'all come if you can. The speakers will be Professor Ananya Roy, Hamid Khan, and K-Town for All and Streetwatch LA. So should be fun. Awesome way to end the year. And that's all for me. So thank you.
Yay, can't wait. Cool. Moving on to, sorry. Gen Rep 3.
Hello, everybody. Hope y'all are well. Just a quick update. We're continuing with day 4 of our But I Thought campaign. I'm touching on some of the funding that happens in the athletic department. We'll also be releasing our Headspace campaign this week. That's all for me.
Thanks, Elijah. I'm really loving the content too. Cool. Moving on to AAC.
Hi everyone, really quick. Just on my end, we're going through reading books for ruins applications. We did get less, as I mentioned last time, so we should hopefully be done in like a week or two, and start processing for those receipts to go through. And then I think we're looking into hosting one final workshop for high school students, week 7. But other than that, we're just wrapping up the ends of the office on our end.
Awesome. Thanks, Breeze. FAC? Oh wait, CSC, sorry.
Hello, all. What's new in CSC land? The Robert S. Michaels Leadership in Service Award is open. It is indeed happening this year. Applications are due this Friday at 11:59 p.m. For those that don't know, we give out 10 $1,000 scholarships to 10 non-graduating undergrads each year. Each recipient also gets $250 to award to a service organization on campus of their choice for recognition of their contributions and the contributions of their organization to our broader community. So if that sounds like you or someone you know or an org you're in, any sharing you could do of that app would be greatly appreciated. It's a great scholarship opportunity for students and a great way to get a little bit of more money for some student orgs. If you have any questions, let me know. Applications are due Friday again. All of our information is on Facebook, Instagram, even Twitter, if you're on Twitter. That's about it. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Moving on to FAC.
Hello, everyone. Just really quickly, I wanted to bring up some potential, not bylaw changes actually, but TGIF guideline changes. In addition to those changes, I'm just cleaning up the guidelines and my own bylaws that have just a bunch of outdated information, things that don't exist. But for TGIF, I brought this up in the group chat. Something that was brought up by the committee is the issue of continuity. This year's committee has done so much work and it's just really changed. I think it's been a huge change from what committees have done in the past, and a lot of it is outreach and promotional stuff that won't work if it just ends this year. So one of our potential solutions was considering changing the timeline of the appointments so that 2 of the appointments would be academic year and 2 would be calendar year. So the way it works now is that both or all actually of the TGIF appointments are supposed to be done, put through council by June 30th, I believe, which just did not happen, will not, it's very hard to make that happen. It's also transfer exclusive, among other things. And so we one suggestion was that we have 2 appointments that have that same timeline, that they're hired sometime over the summer so that they can start their term in the fall, and then the 2 other appointments are hired in winter quarter, or I guess fall quarter, so that they start winter quarter, then they stay winter, spring, summer, no one works, but then they come back in the fall. Obviously that upstart year is going to be a little awkward, but once that's done, it'll just be on this rotating cycle where, of course, there's always 4 committee members, but there's kind of there's a little bit more continuity, but it's not like we're making them 2-year appointments versus 1-year appointments, if that makes sense. So yeah, any thoughts, Emily?
Yeah, I was just thinking arc-wise, I really like that idea. And it helps with the influx of all of the needs to be appointed during the summer ones. When you're developing the deadline for the year, like in-year appointment, can you make sure you look at all the other deadlines for all the other like appointments and make sure it's not like conflicting so that we're not appointing like 1,000 people at once?
Yes. Should I be looking in the bylaws for that or?
I just get them sent to me.
Okay.
So I think like you'd have to look at like Naomi's notes and other folks who appoint, like Breeze with the Senate.
Okay. Maybe I'll just, oh
I
yeah,
was
go ahead.
gonna say, Sachi, usually all of the academic affairs commissions appointments have to be appointed before like October or before October, because that's what like when the academic year starts. And there's only a few that have to be appointed by the summer. I would have to look at my notes off the top of my head, but like BOD is one of them, in like the CRC and the SIOC. So, but the rest are usually coming at the beginning of the year too. I
Okay.
just don't know what comes more heavy. Emily, do you remember?
Honestly, it was all a blur.
Right.
I know the academic senate appointment process was kind of hard for us because we had like 20 interviews in one weekend once or something like that. But I would say like, yeah, the ones you named I think are the only ones, and then like they come trickling in when folks are like, hey, where's your appointment? And you're like, here's my appointment, you know. So yeah.
Got it. I don't know if anyone or like admin knows for the like due dates for these appointments, should those go in bylaws or guidelines?
Not the bylaws, but as far as your appointment process goes, you should be planning to, or the new president should be planning to make the appointment for ASUCLA Board of Directors by week 10 of spring quarter. That's the most pressing appointment. The next group that needs to be done, CAC and CPC, need to be done before their orientation. SIOC and CRC need to be done before their orientation. We'll be able to identify the orientation dates a little later. They typically happen during the summer. SFAC needs to be done before its orientation, which is typically the last 2 weeks of summer before fall quarter begins. Most of the others can be done at any point over the summer into early fall. Those appointments made after week 10 of spring and before week 1 of fall quarter are all interim appointments that will be reaffirmed during week 1 of fall quarter. And then the Student Conduct Committee and the Group Conduct Board appointments will need to be made in September so that they're ready for their orientation, which typically happens at the end of September.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I think for TGIF, it does have to come before September just because there is like a little orientation thing in the summer. But I think what would happen is that if we did like a calendar year appointment, they would just have a separate kind of quote unquote orientation session where they would just kind of shadow the existing committee, because there's not that much to learn other than like just how to like vote and like read applications. So yeah, but I don't know if anyone just has any other thoughts. I mean, maybe also for Dr. Geller, like, is this allowed? I don't see anything that doesn't say it's allowed, but.
Your bylaws are your kind of day-to-day operating procedures. So you certainly can write things in. The problem is compliance. You don't ever want to be out of compliance with your bylaws. And so writing in deadlines that you may not be able to comply with is never best practice. if you're able to commit that the appointments will be made by the dates you write in, then by all means, for those that do have orientation dates and would like their full committees to be able to participate in that training, it would be great.
Got it. Okay. And then I have another quick question for council about guidelines. So I right now currently we have it written that 2 appointments to TGIF need to come from the Students Sustainability Leadership Council. And apparently this is like a new-ish change, like it's not like a referendum, you know, thing that needs to stay. Part of our thing is like, that's good because it ensures that a future council person can't just like put 4 of their friends on the committee, but also there's like ARC for that to like make sure that doesn't happen. And then the part of me that is like, this is bad, is that, you know, that means that 2 of these positions are taken up by people who are already leaders in sustainability. Like they already are just so experienced and involved, and like they don't really like that. TGIF is a great opportunity to get involved. And so it kind of is like inequitable and reduces the ability. Like we had 44 applicants for 2 positions instead of 4 positions. So I don't know if anyone has any general thoughts about that in terms of like longevity.
Wait, Sachi, are you saying that you would want people with like less experience to serve on the committee?
Yeah, well, so the thing about the Student Sustainability Leadership Council, it's like these are people that lead or are leaders within a select group of sustainability orgs. So like presumably they're just very involved in sustainability, but a variety of people on campus who aren't in these orgs or who aren't leaders in these orgs know a lot about sustainability. And it's a requirement in the guidelines that like you have to know something about sustainability. So yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. If no one has thoughts, I don't want to take up too much time, but if people want to message me like any thoughts and ideas, I'm just trying not to like, I'm trying to ensure that the changes and like things we did this year in this year's committee like stay without somehow messing up the guidelines so that like years down the line, something bad happens basically. But yeah, cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Sachi. Moving on to FSC.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So as you all know, we launched the round 2 of the relief fund. So we were able to meet with SGA and confirm that they can submit all the rec forms by the end of the year. However, it's expected that all the round 2 recipients will receive their award during the summer. And so if you're publicizing that, just include that. And I've also included that into the application itself, the description. And then also where I'm asking for address, I'm also letting them know that they'll most likely receive it in the summer. So that's going to hopefully avoid any confusion. And since launch yesterday, we've had about 100 applications. And so thank you all for publicizing, and just, I would say push it again on Friday. That way everyone has the weekend to work on it and can submit it by Monday midnight. And then I also have started recruiting readers and have about 11 readers signed up. So it seems like a good turnout. And then I'm hoping to get those readers by the end of the week. So then next week we can hit the ground running and start reading the final applications. And that is all I have for updates.
Yay. Thank you so much for your work on this, Noe. I know it's been a lot, but we appreciate all the work, and we know the students do too. Cool. Moving on to TSR.
Hi, everyone. So my updates are, so we met with the Teaching and Learning Committee, right, to talk about basically how are we going to come back to campus and how are we going to address, right, some of the disparities between students who cannot come to campus and students who can. I just want to give a huge shout out to, oh my God, I'm so sorry, my mind went blank. Quinn, I'm so sorry, to Quinn O'Connor, not only for her amazing public comment, but just for like, in that meeting, she was a rock star. She was just really going in on like disability rights and how we need to really consider, right, when we're coming back to campus, really accommodating students with disabilities. So just shout out to her for really always like bringing that to light. I do have a housing update. So we met, myself and the co-chairs of the Transfer Leadership Coalition met with Monroe and SEPI in terms of housing. I believe we met with them twice, on Friday and then today. We did not get the results that we wanted, but nonetheless, I feel like we are making progress. I feel like transfers, you really made yourself like heard. Jean Block is definitely aware of what we are saying. They are in receipt of all of our letters. So we are going to, hopefully, from what they've said, really put our hopes in the triples. If that does come up, I don't want to guarantee that because there is nothing that is set in stone, and I really want to make that clear. But they did agree to assist us in communicating with local apartment communities in the area to see if we can work with them to accommodate transfer students or students who need housing. So work with them in like some type of partnership, but also work on providing more resources, hopefully, for transfer students. So that is our small little update in terms of housing. We're still working with them to see what else we can do, but yeah, I just want to thank everybody for the support that you have shown and your actions, because it really showed through to administration. They said, so in terms of the original proposal, they said that they are still reviewing it. So we won't know for sure. Monroe said that he'll get back to me hopefully by the end of this week with a final answer. So I'm still holding out to see if they will consider our original proposal, because I told him that that is possibly the most equitable route for the school to go, considering that if triples are not, if they're not going to go with triples, depending on the public health guidelines. But in terms of like our office, we're also terming out, right? We're working on our transitions to transition the new transfer rep and really get them on board. We will be proposing a bylaw change next week. We really want to sponsor, hopefully, do a USAC sponsorship for the Transfer Summer Bridge program, because I mean, they've done amazing work on really helping transfers acclimate to the campus climate, and we just don't want that to end after I leave. So we're hoping to get them sponsored. And then lastly, we will be bringing forward a basic needs resolution next week as well, just to make everyone aware. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Zuleika. And also thank you for all of your advocacy and everything that you've done this year, especially on the housing committee. Awesome. Moving on to admin reps, Jessica.
No updates for me, thanks.
Awesome. George, I don't think he's here though. No. Okay, Dr. Geller.
I'll pass.
Awesome. Josh.
Naomi, you mentioned the data breach, and I just want to emphasize to everyone on this call to definitely sign up for the monitoring. My social security number, I found out, was compromised, as well as 28 of my passwords and accounts. So I highly encourage everybody to sign up if you have not done that. Do that before you go to bed tonight. It's super, super important. I'm not saying that your information was part of it, but definitely protect your financial and personal digital footprints.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh, for the reminder. Fernando. Thanks, Fernando. Patty.
No updates today.
Awesome. Okay, moving on to new business. We have the FICOM guidelines changes. That says it's my item, but I think it's actually David's item.
No, it's Alfred's, but I can't put like action items under
right.
non-council
Okay,
members.
okay. That's okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, whenever it's Alfred, I put your name.
No worries. Alfred, take it away. If you're here. Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm here. Give me 1 second. Right. Where is it? I think this is the one, yeah. Okay. Hello, council members. This is probably the last change that I wanted to bring up. If I don't anticipate this change to be approved, or even like I expect this to be a lengthy discussion with the rest of council and even with administration. So please bear with me and know that the numbers that I've given in that document is a tentative number. So I've come here to you, all of you today, to talk about increasing the stipends for election board members. And the reason why I want to increase it is because of a lot of reasons. And if you would let me give a short presentation on it, I will explain it to you why I really think that election board stipends should be increased. So like a little bit of some background information into the stipends that we have from the stipend guidelines. So right now, the stipends that, like that's in the USA is elected officials get $260, FICOM gets $249, budget review gets $213, community service mini fund gets $174, but the elections board chair gets $124. And that's the same thing for the vice chair, which elections board again receives the least amount across all of the USA, and also for the director or staff, like a director or staff of various entities. The elections board directors receive $86, which is easily like one of the lowest in the entire USA. And I guess like just from looking at these numbers, you would see that the elections board chair gets paid even less than a presidential director or a chief of staff of an elected position. And the directors get paid less than almost everybody else in the entire USA. And I really want to do something about this because to be honest, when I brought up the change, when I requested the temporary change in winter quarter, I did so on the premise that that there was no director. There was a director that was missing for this year, and I wanted to do whatever I can to increase the stipends for this year. But there is a fundamental problem behind this, which is just that e-board people just are severely underpaid for their work that they do for the elections board. So just a little bit, I guess like of some of the reasons why the stipends should be increased. I think the first of all, I just wanted to reiterate that the elections board, does a ridiculous amount of work. I have been on the elections board for 2 years, and this year I have truly began to learn how much the work that the elections board have. The work just doesn't start in, the spring quarter when the elections begins, but the work actually starts in fall quarter, where the recruitment begins with 0 staffers from appointment, and a lot of planning needs to come from winter quarter, election code changes, election calendar, election events to publicize information about running for offices, elections outreach with student affairs entities, ASUCLA, UCLA Rec, UCLA Housing, TSC, you name it, everything we have to do for fall quarter. And for winter quarter is a lot of heavy planning for spring quarter, heavy outreach for the candidates, and getting the infrastructure set up. And of course, when we come to spring quarter, it's an absolutely stressful spring quarter. We're going through it right now. There's events, orientation, debates, endorsement, IG Lives, meet the candidates. For marketing, there's candidates and ballot propositions, information about technical terms, rules, voting resources, giveaways, ads, and working with the Bruin Media Group. And these are just like, I guess, the main things that I'm listing out on. Investigations is an actual nightmare and a horrible headache to deal with. To my benefit, this seems to be one of the most explosive election seasons related to investigations this year. So, this year has been even more harsh, just trying to really deal with the different complaints that's been happening, trying to help candidates and protect candidates, and just trying to seek a fair balance for all the involved parties. And for finance, there's expense accounts, instructions, forms, sources of funding, Q&A, reimbursement grants, requisitions, funding applications. And there's a lot of other chair-related activities such as my UCLA and UIT coordination. I guess like the bottom line that I just wanted to say is, the elections board members do a crazy amount of work. They, just like the rest of all of you and your directors and your staffers in your offices, they sacrifice all of their free time and their school time for the sake of elections, and their work is endless. It's just really not just, like in spring quarter when they do their work. And the second thing is, the elections board, I think we all know, is a thankless job. Everyone knows that elections board, that no one is satisfied with the elections board. There's always something better that the elections board can do about all of the different things. And we have to interact with people ranging from candidates, student organizations, student affairs entities, department, classes, and USAC. And it's been incredibly taxing on an elections board member's mental health and well-being, just having to deal with all of this. So far, me and my vice chair has not done any schoolwork. The directors are incredibly stressed and overwhelmed, and especially investigations right now, where there's a lot of flack that's going on. So I guess like, just wrapping up my a little bit lengthy presentation, I truly believe that the elections board members deserve more. They deserve compensation for the ridiculous amount of work that they do. They deserve adequate incentives to keep them in the jobs that they have. And elections board, I think, as you all know, requires a lot of institutional knowledge to run. And I think it's really important to retain these people and prevent them from leaving the elections board because of the stress and inadequate compensation that they have. And I believe that the elections board members, work very hard just as much as any elected offices. So it does not make sense that they should receive such a significantly lower amount compared to everyone else in the Undergraduate Students Association. And just, just to add on everything, elections are really important. And they are, after all, responsible for the election of all of you. And it's really important that elections flow safely, flow as smoothly as they can. I know that this election cycle hasn't been the smoothest, but we're trying our best. And, I just really think that the stipends should be increased. And I'm happy for any discussion that with any of you in administration about any difficulties, concerns, technicalities that any of you may have. So yeah, that's all of my presentation, and I'm opening up the floor for any comments from anyone about this.
Thank you so much, Alfred, for the presentation. Could you go back to the numbers?
Yes, I can. Let me stop this share and let me go back to the other share.
Okay. Yeah, I see Justin has his hand up, but I wanted to ask 2 questions first while you go back to them. First, I just want to say, like, I 100% agree that your job is very much so a thankless job, and it's for sure an uphill battle for all of spring quarter for sure. Like, it just feels like you're engulfed in elections, and I know we all feel it, and we're not even running. Well, most of us aren't even running. So definitely want to +1 to getting more pay. I just wanted to know, where would you be moving things around internally within your budget to fit the requests, or are you proposing that we take from other places and rearrange?
Yeah, that's actually the thing that, like, I wanted to ask all of you about this. Like elections board, like the reason why we had this year, the reason why we had a lot of money for advertising and all that stuff is because it's an online election year, and we didn't need to spend all the money for the events and the programming that has to be done that would have typically eaten up the entire budget that we have. So I think, like, realistically speaking, since the next year is going to be an in-person year, I think it would have to come from other sources. But at this point, like I am not too knowledgeable about finance and where the money comes from. So I just wanted to discuss with people how this could even be possible. If
Yeah.
not, then yeah, sorry, Naomi.
Yeah, that was going to be my second point. I think that in any conversation that we have regarding the USAC budget, like Roy should for sure be here because he would know like where and when that's possible. I have an idea that we've been working on freeing up for a while, but it's still not confirmed yet. And it's essentially like the money. I'm trying to pull up the USAC budget right now. So as I pull this up, Justin, I'll let you go next.
Yeah, this was more of a comment. I just want to say I am fully in support. I'm a fan of students getting paid for the work that they do, just in general. So once we like find out a way, and a place and a source for it, like of where this money could come from, I'm in support of it.
Awesome. Aiden?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, I think, as you were saying, Alfred, the work that the elections board does is very vital and often thankless and has a great deal of extra burden this year, given all that's going on. I mean, you've only got us as council members for about 2 more weeks, and I think some of the more long-term ideas you have for increases might be a conversation to have with the next council, since it'll be their budget. But if you have the ability in your own currently approved budget to increase the stipends on your own with your discretionary budget, I think that might be the easiest solution. I fear that, if we are to pull monies from other areas in USAC, it might take a bit of time. It won't directly reach your directors in time. And, by the time we figure this out, you might, elections board might be on to the next council. So if possible, and if you do have the room, I would support having the, step ups in election board stipends come from the discretionary election board budget that's in your purview.
Okay. Jessica?
Yeah, I just was taking a look at the original USA budget, and of course, I would always recommend talk to Vong and just confirm the numbers, but it does look like the election board budget is kind of budgeted as a whole, including everything from stipends to advertising to other costs for running elections. So potentially there is some room to figure out if there is a way to kind of adjust the line item so that the assistant line item is a little bit higher. But I also wanted to remind you all that if you do approve this kind of change, it would actually require council to amend the current stipend guidelines that exist, because those essentially give a ceiling cap of how much any particular position can be stipended. So if you're increasing what the current cap is, you would need to formally amend that document through council just to make sure that it's consistent with those guidelines.
Actually, for that, Jessica, I had a question. So are you specifically talking about the provision that says the cap is at 115 for all stipended positions? Is that the one that you're referring to?
Yeah, so there's a set of USA financial guidelines on the USAC website. I can pull the exact link and drop it in the chat so you can review it. But essentially, it goes position by position, and it articulates what the maximum amount that a particular stipend position can get paid. So if your rates that you're trying to increase will go over that ceiling, you would need to adjust it.
I see.
So yes, this document that you're looking at now, you would have to make sure that if you're increasing the cap, because from what I understand, the increase for this year's election board staff was a temporary one-time increase to accommodate the additional work of doing the elections virtually But yes, if you're trying to permanentize an increase to the stipend, you would need to amend these guidelines so that it reflects the rate
Right.
correctly.
Right. Yes, I was under that impression as well. I was thinking that like I thought you were referring to this part of the stipend guidelines, which has a ceiling for all undergraduate students association standing committees. That's 115, but it says that the elections board is dealt separately in these guidelines. So I thought you were referring to that. If that's not, then
No, yeah, no, just the section right above it that says stipend ceiling for the election board.
right.
That's where you would want to change. And it looks like it's the current stipend ceiling is consistent in both of those paragraphs, but yeah, it would be the election board cap that you would want to amend so that it's consistent with that document. And just to be clear, these rates are inclusive of the increase with California state minimum wage increasing in January. So that's just something to be aware of, as well as you increase the amount for the stipend, that you'll also have to take into account the additional increase that happens in January from California state minimum wage increasing, just so that you're aware when you're looking at your numbers and your budget.
Okay, that absolutely makes sense. Thank you for that, Jessica. And in response to Aiden's comment about like increasing it this year, I was mainly kind of talking it from the perspective of like for the next year, to be honest, because in this year we only have a month left, and honestly we have only like 2 weeks left of work at this point. Like nobody, at least and on our side, is even thinking about like the money anymore. It's really just like do everything that we can to land this ship. So I was mostly talking about this for the perspective of the next year, and just because, and the reason why I wanted to ask this council iteration is because I spent like a long time working together with all of you, and definitely with the new council, it's going to be like new people, and they definitely they won't understand like how much the elections board does as much as this council does. And that's just like the answer to Aiden's question. And I'm a little bit confused, like in general, how to go about this, because I'm not too sure about the finance stuff.
So if I might offer, there are really two parts here. One is the policy change, which would allow higher stipends. The second is the budget decision, which will determine what the actual stipends would be for any given year. So as far as the policy piece, in addition to this language that you've proposed, the same day that this would be voted on, there would need to be the change to the other document that was just shown, so that they are done simultaneously to stay consistent. That could be done as early as next week, as long as it's following any review process that's needed for the financial guidelines document. I say that because of the language. The language does not say will receive a specific amount. It says shall receive a stipend not to exceed a particular amount. And since there's already a stipend, increasing the not to exceed does not increase the stipend. It gives authority for the stipend to go up. The actual stipends will need to be determined by next year's council when they approve their budget. They will decide how much goes to election board and how much goes to the few other items that they have discretion to change. When they do that, they'll set an amount for election board, and then they'll give the election board chair some amount of discretion to decide within that election budget how much is used for stipends, advertising, paying for the programming of the ballots, the events around elections, and all of the other aspects of election season. So I think you can move forward with this council if you wish, changing the two policies. You could do that next week. And then the new council will allocate an amount of money for election board for next year. And based on that, there will be a determination made of just how much is available to be given to each of the election board members.
I see. So I guess Dr. Geller, what you would be saying is that like the the financial guidelines and the stipend, this one here and this one here can be changed by next week with this current council, but the amount that the chair and the directors and the vice chair actually gets is dependent on how much the next council is going to allocate for the elections board. I guess like is that what I'm understanding correctly?
Yes, exactly. This allows them to give higher amounts. And then when they see their budget and see how much money is available, that will then help to make the actual determination of what next year will actually receive. So you can raise the maximum cap now with this current council, just as long as you do the USAC guidelines at the same time as you do this standalone item you've proposed.
I see. I guess, yeah, like about that, sorry, like to council and to like Dr. Geller and any other person who can answer this question, I was actually trying to directly change this one. So the action item that I had brought up for today was I was trying to change this language here with this language here, which is actually identical language to the financial guidelines here. So I guess I was trying to change this directly, Dr. Keller, if I guess like.
I would recommend, since the item on the bylaws or on the, excuse me, let me start over. The item on the agenda did not have the correct name for this document. It wasn't clear that this is what was being changed. I would recommend you're having the discussion tonight, table the vote until next week so that it's back on the agenda with the correct document title listed. And so you have your time tonight to talk about it. People can think on it and be ready to vote next week when proper notice has been given to the community about what it is you're actually proposing to change.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Like two council members, I'm fine with changing it next week. I hope, yeah, I have no problem with that. And I'm happy to let the rest of you think, or if you feel like you're comfortable with it, like you can also change it now, or whichever one you prefer is fine with me.
Honestly, Alfred, I would also recommend having a conversation with Roy to see if these numbers are even feasible, because I would hate for them to pass and then for the next council to realize that it's not feasible. So I would actually try to set up a meeting with Roy and Jessica so that you all could like go through the proposed USAC budget for the 2020-2021 year and see like what's necessary and what's not. Because like, for example, this past year, if I'm right, this past year we dedicated $16,000 to advertising. You could always move around money that's meant for advertising to make it go to assistance. And so I would say like look at the line items and see like what can be moved around and what, and that way like yeah, you're able to make these changes that don't make anything official right now, but that way you all, your board can go to the next USAC council and advocate that they move around the budget in that way before the budget is passed on July. So I would actually say we should move on from this discussion, but come back next week, and that way with that information, that way we can talk about it in a way that's a little bit more fruitful, because I think it's important to pay people, but we also can't give like false promises if money isn't there. So we should make sure that the money is there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think then I'll set up a meeting with Roy and Jessica just to talk about the budget and just how if this can be feasible. And then next week, I will bring up this change again before council with the information that I have from Jessica and Roy. So I will just, I guess like Naomi, like what would the procedure be for me to just move on with this presentation, or do I don't need to do anything else, right?
No, I would just say like just meet with Roy and Vong so that way they could talk, like walk you through that and
Okay.
see if it's feasible.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Naomi and everyone.
Yay. Okay. Awesome. Moving on to the Congressional Advisory Board bylaw change. I will share my screen because I'm the one presenting it. Unfortunately, my director, Alex Berry, as you all have met, had a family emergency, so he wasn't able to be here tonight. And they've created like a really cool presentation. So if there's still questions that remain, he could always come back and explain the presentation and present it next week. But I just wanted to share my screen. As you all know, CAB was, wait a minute, can you guys see this? Can you guys see anything?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Okay.
see your
Yeah,
document.
you can see it.
Okay. As you all know, CAB was kind of my brainchild. And this year we had the opportunity to make it come to life thanks to all of you and everyone on our CAB team and then all of the organizations that have been part of CAB. So just to give you all a quick run through of the Congressional Advisory Board, the appointment that we would be adding to the bylaws is another presidential appointment, one being the CAB chair, who would be approved by council, but would be formally selected by the CAB board itself and the sponsoring organizations, all of which is established in the charter, which we'll also bring forward to council to pass as well. We have this section here that outlines the makeup of CAB, what CAB does, its function. We also felt that we added it's very similar to CSA's portion in the bylaws where we add the voting members. And then we also enumerated a few of the founding organizations that were part of the Congressional Advisory Board. We have about 18 of them, including most of the MOs and some other really core advocacy groups that have done a lot of work this year. And then we added non-voting representatives, which are just any of the council members who want to come and like pull up and whatnot. And again, the purpose of CAB here, the way that it's supposed to interact with council and its extent. We also have the procedures of the Congressional Advisory Board. We've included that they should meet at least 3 times per quarter. We've added a transition and nomination procedures because, like I said, CAB isn't necessarily, the chair isn't picked by the president, it's confirmed by the president, but the CAB itself should for sure be nominating their chair, and that should be the person who is appointed. This section here talks about operating procedures and just the council. So this year I had the ability to, of course, invite whoever we wanted and to be able to speak to council. And it's usually the president who is the chair of the council to be able to, their responsibility to be able to pick like who gets to speak and whatnot, and who gets time on the agenda. And I've noted here that council officers or any standing committee chair, doesn't just have to be CAB, may request that a report be listed on the agenda. Usually it's like up to the, I think it's also up to the IVB too, but if the president in the meeting doesn't want to give time to someone else, they could do that theoretically. So again, this is also just talking about no action shall be taken by the council on any item added to the agenda by a standing committee chair unless such an item has been sponsored by a council officer and meets all the other requirements for consideration as an action item under this section. With the exception of reports, any item added to the agenda by a standing committee chair must be submitted at the direction of the committee that they represent. So this is basically just formalizing the language that they can't, the CAB chair or let's say the CSA chair can't just like willy-nilly submit that they want to talk about apples and oranges. Like it has to be, I guess, submitted at the direction of the committee. If CSA doesn't want Leslie to talk about apples and oranges, then she can't do that at the council meeting. Again, this also talks about how the CAB chair functions in meetings. And yeah, that is the extent of all of these articles. So I can't really see if folks have their hands up, but if anyone has any questions, I'm open to taking the questions. I also wanted to give CRC the opportunity to give their recommendation. So actually, we should probably do that first. Jonathan?
Yes, hello. So CRC met today. We looked over these changes, very positive all around. The only one question that we had that I believe came from Aiden was, I think I wrote it at the bottom, was if there's any, if this is like not here, if this is someone else, is there any deadline for the CAB agenda release? Because we were saying that as council members, like we would have liked to, I guess, know more often when CAB meetings were happening so that we could attend ourselves. But that was just a question we had. But other than that, we voted 4-0-0 to approve these changes.
That is a really good question. That is something that we could either outline here or also just include it in the charter. I wasn't necessarily sure. I mean, actually, that thought never crossed my mind. So that's something that we could do or just put in the charter. Justin?
Yeah, slight different thing, but maybe it can be raised as a it's like just another question. I noticed like the founding orgs like are like hard written into the bylaws. Is there gonna be a procedure like in the charter like to like, oh, if an org is like like a member or like becomes a member, like they will be added to the bylaws? Or is that like a thing? Or yeah.
We didn't necessarily talk about that. We noted, so technically there are other orgs that can join. We just delineated these as founding orgs. But we also said any voting members as specified in the charter, which means any like registered student org that goes through the CAB onboarding process can become a CAB organization. It's just these are the founding ones, but they're not limited to these. So we could, in essence, or theoretically, add them to this list. I think that that would be cool to add them to the list.
To be clear, there's not like a specific like other privilege like a founding org gets other than like they were there and founding the CAB. Yeah, they're just exactly 100%. Yeah, that makes sense.
Power. Yeah. Cool. I'll also bring forward this suggestion, either since I will be terming out in 2 weeks, I'll probably leave that for like the next USAC president to kind of initiate. But are there any other questions, thoughts, concerns, or emotion?
I move to approve the CAB bylaws amendment.
A second.
A second.
Awesome. Emily motions. I'm gonna go with Justin seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay. By a unanimous vote of 10-0, the motion passes and the CAB bylaws are approved. Thanks, everyone. And now moving on to my last bylaw of the night. Okay. Sharing this again. This one's really short, but as you all know, a seat at the table was also another idea that we had came in with this year and really wanted to use as a way to get to know student organizations, connect them with USAC, and also just connect USAC with the student orgs themselves. So we had wrote this here: the president shall execute the seat at the table initiative, in which one of their committees seek out clubs and organizations to make a concise presentation regarding the organization's goals and concerns. I am just realizing I didn't add the word weekly. I hope no one minds that I add that word. If anyone has any questions, thoughts, please feel free to raise your hands. And I also just want to hear from CRC, Jonathan.
Yeah, don't mind the weekly from us. No real major comments or concerns on this one from us. We voted 4-0-0 to approve. Great initiative. Thanks for bringing this forward.
Thanks. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna promote my team really quickly because they did work on this and I totally forgot that they were here. Steven, take it away.
Hello. We also have Naomi and Josie to present with me. So if we could just
Cool. Okay. We're all good. So
Yeah.
hi, my name is Naomi. I worked in the accessibility committee this year. So just to talk about the Seat at the Table initiative a bit more. So for us, it was just more than eliciting like opinions and ideas. Our aim was to give individuals and organizations a spotlight to uplift and empower like student leaders and groups to highlight how much them and their ideas are valued, and lastly that the contributions matter as well. The initiative allowed for a space for various orgs to present their mission statements, goals for the year, concerns, and to further push initiatives. Finally, a seat at the table was also successful in increasing USAC accessibility by bringing us closer to the student body in general. For these reasons, we requested the change in Article 4, Section B5, and that Naomi read previously.
Again, I'm so sorry. I thought I was a lone wolf tonight. If no one has any questions for the team, a motion.
I move to approve the seat at the table bylaw change.
I second.
Awesome. Emily motions, Jonathan seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, by a unanimous vote of 10-0, the motion passes and the seat at the table initiative bylaw has been approved. Thank you, y'all, for coming out tonight, and thanks for all the work that y'all do. I know it's a lot of work to be chasing orgs down, sending 4 messages at a time, trying to get them to confirm to see if they'll be here. But it really was an honor to be able to do it every week. So thank you.
Yes. I just wanted to add, if there was a way to share our spreadsheet, our outreach spreadsheet to the next administration, that'd be awesome. So
Yeah,
thank you
sure.
guys.
We can for sure work on that as we transition and meet the new president, whoever they be. Yeah, transition packet. We'll have that. So
Thank you.
yay. Thank y'all so much again. Okay, moving on to our resolution commemorating Lily. I will pass it off to Sachi.
Hello. I will share my screen. Cool. So I just wanted to kind of walk through what's in this resolution. There's information obviously on, all of Lily's contributions to USAC in particular, but also to UCLA as a whole, and the lasting impact of her advocacy. As you all heard earlier during public comment, all of Lily's contributions to UCLA, they continue on in the people she knew and the organizations that she started or changed. So that's kind of the goal of this resolution, is commemorating her contributions, but also making a statement about the values that she upheld, and that, you know, her successors and all of every organization and space she's in, what they'll continue to uphold. So we start with just information about Lily at UCLA and also the organizations that she was most involved in. She was the recipient of 2 disability studies minor scholarships, and I'm sure would be recipient of many more, all of them, had she had she applied. Um, we also, I think this is a line that's important to me and maybe something you heard during public comment. Her saying for FAC, among other sayings, was no normies allowed. And it's really this principle that, you know, every space that you're in should be a space of community, and it should be a space of acceptance for literally any type of person, any personality. As we wrote here, a safe space to be themselves and to grow as individuals and student leaders. Within FAC, I mean, obviously she was the commissioner last year, but she also was in FAC the year before. She served on the University Council on Disability. She founded Project Access on Board, which had a specific initiative called Greater Visibility, which was aimed at destigmatizing disability. She institutionalized advocacy for disabled students in the bylaws, in the FAC bylaws. Hopefully that's something that expands to other offices in the future. Achieved $35,000 for CAE funding to redesign, and ultimately this was kind of a stepping stone into a disability cultural center, which we'll kind of get into later in the resolution. I think this is also kind of an important whereas. Lily was a tireless advocate for everything that needed improvement at UCLA, but particularly when it came to just basic, like, minimum accessibility standards, of which the university still does not meet. I, you know, maybe I'm not speaking for these people, but I can assume that every administrator's room that she stepped into, she put a little fear into them in terms of her advocacy and the things that she was advocating for, which essentially is what she would refer to as basic human rights, and what I would agree to. But that line of advocacy is really, really sticks with the UCLA community, and especially within FAC and within spaces such as DSU. She also started a lot of the TGIF reforms that have continued this year. So I was talking about that earlier with the guidelines. Everything started with Lily. Of course, mentioning DSU, which has just really blossomed this year under Lily's guidance. And even, you know, outside of just disability advocacy, as I was saying, she really was an advocate for all marginalized groups, coming from her own personal experience, but also just from her you know, general beliefs and ideology, again, of community and inclusion and acceptance. And then after UCLA, you know, she worked in her hometown with a disability justice collective, working to promote both racial and disability justice. And, you know, I think her goals long term were to do this at the international level. So yeah, the last part of this resolution is talking about the Disability Cultural Center, of which $28,000 or over $28,000 have already been donated in Lily's memory to start. Myself and Quinn and the Disabled Student Union have been the main advocates for this space so far. But this was really Lily's ultimate vision. Like, the CIE redesign was a kind of practical stepping stone to that, but really this was her vision, and it's not an unheard of vision. They exist at Berkeley and other schools in the UC and across the country. And as you kind of heard Quinn mention in her public comment, it's something that is just so essential for continuing this community that Lily really kind of kickstarted on her own. And then just as a concluding note, DSU, this year's FAC Commission, UCLA Radio, as well as last year's USAC Council have all signed on to this resolution. So the kind of calls to action from this are to, obviously commemorate Lily's contributions, but also we're urging all future councils to educate themselves on Lily's contributions and repass memorial resolutions to commit each year's council to these principles. And so, whether that means for years to come that councils are repassing this exact resolution, whether they're continuing to collect testimony, review, all of the things that Lily did, I think it's, important for all councils to know what she did for USAC in particular, but for the student body. And then also another resolution is to recognize that, USAC ourselves, we have a long way to go when it comes to the accessibility standards that Lily and her successors have been fighting for, but the university at large as well. Also, this resolution would resolve support for the Lily Shaw Disability Cultural Center on campus. And then ultimately, again, just resolving that Lily's guiding principles would, be commemorated and continue to lead and influence our decisions as councils to come and as in our advocacy for the UCLA student body at large. So give a long kind of explanation there, but if anything, Lily taught me to take up space. So just did that. Let me know if anyone has any thoughts or questions.
No questions, just lots of thoughts and reminding myself of all the really great memories that I had with Lily. Had the opportunity to serve as 1/3 of who she called the Commish Clique, which was a spinoff of the other Commish Clique. So it was really fun, really good times, and truly, truly miss her and really thankful for all the work that you all put into bringing this forward because the message is just as important. So thanks for that, Sachi, and everyone else who gave public comment today. Zuleika.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate everything. Like, Lily was such a beautiful human being, and literally, like, if you knew her, like, you know that she she changed you. Like, that's just the truth of it. Like, she literally changed you. And thank you so much, Sachi. It's an honor to be on this resolution. Like, I think commemorating Lily is one of the most beautiful things that we can do as a council, and just support and really retain, her memory. And I literally, future council members, you better know who she was, and you better educate yourself on the work that she did, because the work that she did still lives on within our offices. So thank you so much.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that's been said so far. And I also want to send out a thanks to everyone that sent public comment today. I didn't expect it to, but that public comment made me really emotional. Just kind of it made me want to text Lily and tell her about all the people that she's touched in some way. And that was really special, I thought. So thank you for all that. And thank you so much to FAC for your leadership on this resolution and making this happen. I honestly can't think of a better way to kind of end my 2 terms here on this body than doing this. So Lily was a powerhouse if you didn't know her. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this and to really push for what she had envisioned, because it was she has such a grand vision that really I think needs to be realized. So thank you to everyone who's been a part of this, and I look forward to seeing this resolution pass.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share thoughts, comments? Go ahead, Sachi.
Yeah, I'll just share like a concluding kind of, I don't know, full circle thought. Um, Last year, I think when we had like our transition, like USAC meeting, like what's gonna happen week 7 this year. Um, like Jonathan, I remember you said something like, Lily, like you put FAC on the map, and she never forgot that. And always was just like, yeah, like FAC is on the map. Like Jonathan said it, FAC is on the map. And FAC was on the map because of her. So she did. She put FAC on the map. She put DSU on the map. She put everything on the map, really. So that's a fun kind of full circle takeaway I just wanted to share.
Yay. I love that wrap up. And with that being said, would anyone like to motion?
I motion to pass a resolution commemorating Lily Shaw and her contributions to disabled student advocacy in USAC and the broader UCLA community.
I second.
Jonathan motions, Sachi seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Awesome. By a unanimous vote of 11 to 0 to 0, the motion passes, and a resolution commemorating Lily Shaw and her contributions to disabled student advocacy in USAC and the broader UCLA community passes. Thanks, everyone. And again, special shout out to FAC. Awesome. Moving on to the resolution in support of doubling the Pell Grant.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll keep it brief since the resolution is very short and sweet. But it's something, this resolution just affirms USAC's commitment to calling on Congress to double the Pell Grant. It's a, issue and initiative that I know many of you on council have been strong supporters of and have worked on and contributed time to. So I'm just very grateful for the support for this campaign throughout this year and hope to have it codified into our council record with this resolution.
Okay. If everyone's had a chance to see it, someone can motion. I know folks are probably still trying to look at it though, so you can give it a minute and then someone can motion.
I move to approve a resolution to support doubling the maximum award of the federal Pell Grant.
Second.
Emily motions, Zulika seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay. All right. By a unanimous vote of 11 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and a resolution in support of doubling the Pell Grant has passed. Thanks, Aiden. Okay. Awesome. So I just had it on here, but it's not here anymore. I had the birth referendum. I've been suggested 2 pathways by our lovely Jonathan. He suggested that we either hold a special meeting to quickly make a vote to endorse or not. Oh, it's cool. It's cool. Endorse or not endorse birth, or we can allow offices to do it individually. The only reason I don't think we should do it individually is because it would allow, like I know my page and others to be able to post that USAC as a whole endorses birth, which sometimes like some of your offices love y'all, but some of y'all just don't post the USAC wide stuff that like we all do as a council. So it would help in that kind of advocacy. So yeah, unless you all are comfortable with me just like saying that after you all fill out the endorsements quizzes, which is fine too. But yeah, I just wanted to take a temperature check and see where folks are at. We can do special meeting or individuals, but that would mean that everyone would need to do the quiz. And Alfred said it's about 10 to 15 minutes long.
Would the special meeting be sometime? Oh, I'm sorry, I did not raise my hand.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Would a special meeting be sometime like this week? Because it would have to be before endorsements. Yeah, exactly. I'm just thinking that while the quiz is like, and us all doing it individually is annoying, like, you know, like, I don't know if that might be easier, like logistically to pull off. Just a thought.
Okay. We could run the meeting quicker as long as, I mean, that's granted if people, like, there isn't like a long public comment line. Christina? Or wait, I think Sachi had her hand up first, sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I'm fine doing either. I guess I'm slightly concerned that we're not gonna be able to like schedule something. But if we are able to schedule a time that we're all free, then I'm fine with doing a quick meeting.
Yeah, Christine, or yeah, Jonathan?
Yeah, I similarly like I would be fine doing either, but I do think that having the like endorsement of the full council does say something and does mean something and is important to the organizers of birth in their campaigning process. I know last year that the endorsements of the full council for the referenda that we're running last year was really important in that sense. So I personally am fine with doing a very quick meeting sometime this week to do that. I know also, and this may have just been like a one-off issue that like was a one-time thing. So if Jessica or Fernando can inform, that would be great. But I know that in the past there have been some times where votes have been done over email. I've seen it in the email in the commissioner email multiple times in the past. So if that's also an option, I would be in favor of that. But in general, I think I think it would be a good idea for us to try and do something council wide.
Jessica or Fernando? Do y'all have information about that?
Yeah, I feel like from what I recall, the few times that we did a vote by email was due to urgent funding decisions that needed to be made, but there wasn't quorum at the meeting, so council wasn't able to vote. I believe it happened during summer, because sometimes it's a little challenging to get full quorum during summer meetings. But you know, I can look into it and see if there's any guidance in like the bylaws regarding doing a vote by email. But yeah, I believe that was specifically for funding because it was an urgent issue where groups needed to have access to the funds before council would meet the next time. And I think that also partially was addressed by giving the discretionary authority to FICOM. But I'll definitely look and see if I can find any information on just a general vote by email clause in the bylaws.
Cool. Yeah, before I call on Christina, just also wanted to uplift, yeah, Justin's point about like transparency. Yeah, I agree. And also, like, it's literally a referendum on basic needs. Our current USAC budget only allocates 1% of our funding towards basic needs officially. I would also think that that would be kind of disrespectful. Christina?
Oh, Justin, do you want to go? Because mine is not related to the topic right now.
Yeah, I said it in the chat, but if I can just say it for like everyone, I don't know. I feel like politically, like I think like student fee increases are like a thing that people want to at least talk on. So I'm hesitant. But now that I say that though, like that also means I'm hesitant towards the quiz, not, to be thinking through that. So I think the email vote and the quiz vote are kind of like, meh. I think maybe a special meeting makes sense.
Cool. Christina?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I mean, not that I would make you all do a special meeting just for this, but for what it's worth, I would also prefer to do a special meeting just because for like SWC individually to endorse, I would want to have a vote with SWC leadership, and we meet on Tuesdays. So it might take, like, I think it would just be easier to if we voted at a special meeting.
Okay. Well, if we're all going with a special meeting, if you all could take 2 seconds to fill out Justin's when to meet, that way Emily can like easily send out the special meeting agenda. All we need is 10 folks present in order to have quorum. But I also do want to encourage folks to just pop in, especially if it's only going to be like a 5-minute ordeal, to just pop in and come through. Okay.
I believe that the days are gonna have to be Friday, Monday, and Tuesday, no? Or Friday and Monday.
Right. Yeah, I would recommend us doing it Friday, just so that we don't run into any conflicts with like endorsements. That way, Alfred can release the endorsements.
Sorry, wait, to be clear, did I get the days wrong? Should I remake when to meet?
I think we only have Friday.
You said we only have Friday? Yeah, no, I didn't include. I was confused, I think. I didn't include Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Oh no, it's because I saw Wednesday and Thursday on here and folks are pulling it up.
Okay. Oh yeah, you need Friday, right? It has to be Friday?
It has to be Friday.
Okay.
Let me read the bylaws.
We need at least 2 days to let the general public be aware, so.
Right, okay. Got it. Okay, so it could be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday?
Yeah, you just need to post by tomorrow to let the general public be aware that this special meeting is occurring. And you would need to post the referendum language so the general public can review. Sorry, I did not raise my hand. Sorry, Sachi.
Awesome. Go ahead, Sachi.
Cool. I was just gonna ask, so let's say like only 10 of us come and like, let's say I can't make it to this Friday meeting, like I can still post like council endorses, and then should I also be filling out the form like for my individual office as well, or like is this council endorsement just council endorsement?
Yeah, this council endorsement takes care of council, so we wouldn't have to fill out the form.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the deadline is Saturday, so as long as we meet any time on Friday, then we'll be good. Okay.
Okay, so then Friday should be the same. I was about to make a new one to meet, but Friday should be good. Good. Just fill it out for Friday, y'all.
Okay, cool. Awesome sauce. So we're done here. There's nothing else on the agenda. Wait, am I missing something?
Give me 1 second to check something.
Okay.
Sorry, don't end the meeting.
We are not ending the meeting yet.
Sorry. Wow. I'm looking at the elections calendar from the Lead Board website, and it says endorsement slips are due Thursday at 8 p.m.
I just texted Alfred. Said by Saturday.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry.
Cool, cool. So now it looks like we're officially done here. I am concluding this meeting at 9:22 p.m. Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
The recording has